GM. So the New Year rallies have lost their momentum. Today, I'm going to dive into a full analysis on a couple of altcoins that I'm looking at. We've got PEPE and XRP. But first, let's quickly recap the Bitcoin price action since yesterday. So, as you guys know, we hit those equal highs. We then had a market structure break, which I talked about in yesterday's video, where the low that leads to the high gets broken with a close below. We then set a lower high, and then we made that all important lower low that I was talking about in yesterday's video with that close, and that has led to downtrend continuation. So if you guys remember, mentioned exactly this, how this confirms a downtrend if we break that blue line, that low there, as that then creates the lower low. And I also mentioned over here on the video that looking at the leverage data, we were seeing that this was likely to actually break down due to the fact that spot was selling at the market and perps, they had been longing at the market and trying to hold it up. So leverage longs trying to hold the market up typically can lead to further flushes, especially with this big rise in open interest, which we'll dive into. But it's exactly as I talked about in the Discord too. I said if we create that lower low, then likely to see the red path. And that's exactly what we got on Bitcoin. So looking at the ETF flows quickly, we have seen another big outflow day. However, still net inflows for 2026. That's going to be something to watch carefully. So we've got about 1.1 billion of inflows, and we've got about 720 million of outflows. So we are up 400 million around that on net. So let's see if we can stay positive in terms of inflows in 2026. I think that's going to be pretty key actually for short-term trending moves on Bitcoin. So what have we seen? Well, of course, we had this 2026 open rally. We then had some weakness around these equal highs that I mapped out over here. We lost that 50-day EMA, which was very key. That was your early warning sign, along with losing the 12 and 21 EMA bands, which have now crossed red. So now we're seeing price. It made that lower low with that candle close, and it is having that flush down. So from here, shorts, they're right. They were the play, as I mentioned yesterday. New Year rally was stalling. All the signs were there with ETH outperforming. That curse played out perfectly again. And now it's just a game of waiting to see if we hit this 2026 open, do we chop around and can we form a base for an actual move higher? Or what's probably more likely, if we retrace this entire 2026 open rally, could actually see some sort of bearish continuation move to put a lower wick in for the year, which is perfectly normal. Generally, all of these 12-month candles, they all have lower wicks on them. Of course, we've got some examples like 2023, which doesn't really have much of a lower wick, but generally you get an upper and lower wick on these candles. And so far, we've been up only from the beginning. So it's no surprise to see price now having some sort of retracement. And if it does attack the lows, then we'll be setting our low for the year. And interestingly, just looking at these charts right now, we've rejected exactly from that 2025 open. So something I like to do is use these high time frame levels and then go to the low time frame to see how they're playing out. And well, yeah, don't really need to say much more. That's a level I've been putting you guys on for months and months now. It's the 2025 open from, of course, last year, and that's where we're rejecting from on all of these wicks. But still, trading inside of that candle over here, haven't had the volatile move. That comes with a break of either side of this box. Because volatility is dropping, we're still trading inside of a weekly candle from November, haven't been able to go outside of it, so energy is building. And that energy will eventually be released one way or another. So short-term trading wise, let's see how price reacts to that 2026 open. Do we build a base for higher, or does it actually lead to that level flipping and putting in a proper lower wick where we do have some targets to the downside? And high time frame retests of these lows are going to be very key to seeing the next directional kind of move on Bitcoin, because can we actually fail to go lower and maybe set up a bottom? That would be the base that's needed for a proper rally towards the highs. Or do we break down and have to do exactly this from lower? That's the question. You guys know, I've been talking about this on a couple videos, so I won't go into that too much. Make sure you check out Morning Markets if you haven't. And without further ado, that's Bitcoin. Let's dive into the altcoin analysis. So looking at Pepe. Pepe's, of course, been a big mover in the last week or so. Something I mentioned actually a few days ago in my video where I said Bitcoin and meme coins are rallying. Put you guys on about 5 or 6 days ago now. And to do a full analysis of Pepe, I'm going to do a top-down analysis. So starting on the monthly chart, these wicks on the monthly candles, I like to use, especially, a candle like this, which is coming after the breakout. You then get a huge liquidation candle over here. Many longs would have been liquidated. I like to take that wick and call it the monthly imbalance. And same to the upper end. When we have these huge wicks to the upside, which then fully retrace on the candle close, I like to look at that as a monthly imbalance. And we've got another one in the middle here. So we've not been able to close any monthly candles in this first or second imbalance over here. When it comes to the green imbalance, we have started closing monthly candles in it. And this is the area which we have been holding in. So now when I zoom into the weekly, you can see how these levels actually play out very nicely. So that original monthly imbalance from that first big liquidation monthly candle after that breakout on Pepe, that got retested once, twice. Let's call this the third time. And then a fourth time over here, which we're currently doing right now. And that's held as support for bounces every single time. Sometimes a bounce to new all-time highs like we had here. Sometimes just into a lower high bounce where we then found resistance. So on any rallies, I'll be looking at these monthly imbalances in red as potential resistance zones. So that means price is likely to actually find sellers again and rejecting those zones, and bulls to flip them. That's what they need to do if you want to see continuation higher on any rallies. But a lot of work to do till then. So that's just a quick update there. We'll analyze that if it comes to it. But let's actually look at what's happening more so right now on Pepe. So if we now zoom in a little bit more to the chart, so we go into the daily, we've now got our high time frame bias. We're at high time frame support. We have high time frame resistance above us. So let's see, can this produce another bounce? Is this where we can recover? Well, this overall zone is going to be very key for Pepe. We've had a 1, 2, 3, 4 day rally due to price really being super oversold as opposed to signs of genuine demand stepping in yet. You guys know, I'm always going to give you a no-nonsense analysis, not going to shill you a bunch of bad information like most YouTubers will do out there in the altcoin analysis. I'm going to give you guys a real deal because I'm here to make money. I'm a trader. YouTube comes second for me. I only started YouTube after I became very successful trading, so can rest assured I'm not here for, I don't even know why these YouTubers call season every year, but it is what it is. Anyway, another story, another rant for another time. Pepe, since October 10th liquidation, it has filled in the wick, and the question is, can it start recovering here? So back to the weekly to get that higher view again. You don't want to see Pepe trade below this monthly imbalance box because that then likely sets up Pepe to go into a death chop and then potentially recover from here, which would of course be the previous accumulation zone, which it actually had over here. So cause and effect, Pepe spent many weeks going sideways, almost a year going sideways, 280 days before breaking out. So that's where smart money buyed up all of the supply, cornered the market on Pepe, which made it extremely illiquid, which is why you can get these huge markups. And then on all of these markups, all of these monthly imbalances, what do? That's where they sell. That's where they sell. That's where they sell. That's when funding starts going crazy. They play all the smart money games to get retail longing the top or revenge shorting on the way up. And that's what generates their sell liquidity. But best believe their buys are all between this accumulation zone that lasted 280 days. So plenty of time to accumulate for those whales. And that's between these decimals and over here, so 0.59 to 0.19. Very low on Pepe. They're still in profit even at current prices, which can be a problem for these altcoins and would be one case as to why we may actually lose this green box over here. But price action first, that should trigger. If we lose this green box, that's a key sign that the recovery is failing on Pepe and it actually needs to go lower to find the next area of recovery, which, as I said, can be that previous accumulation zone over here. So I'll be watching that on the bearish scenario, but let's look at a more bullish scenario on Pepe if we can hold that green monthly imbalance. And this is going to be a recovery. Well, let's take a look at it. So zooming into the daily, what we really want to see is a recovery period here on Pepe. So what I'm going to do is take off this red path and use a volume profile for everything after that October 10th liquidation day where retail really got wiped on Pepe. Because the start of any recovery period typically begins after retail are completely gone. That's when the best opportunity is there. But it doesn't guarantee that it's going to occur from here, it may occur from lower. But if it is going to occur from here, well, I want to look at the buying and selling that's been occurring right now. And volume profile essentially tells you between the value area low and value area high, where 70% of the buying and selling has been done. And what we're seeing is Pepe value area high sits around that 0.65, which we're currently trading below. So far, this rally's been strong, but it is looking like the momentum is gone here and that this was an initial burst up, which is now likely to fail rather than lead to immediate continuation higher. But that's okay. As I talked about in that previous meme coin video, if you see Pepe just blast up like this, well, novice traders, they may think that's bullish and that's the path they want. But this is more likely to be a short squeeze, and that actually leads to price more often than not just retracing the entire thing and then often just grinding to new lows, as it's not real demand. Price is rising due to shorts being forced to close, which, yes, that's buying, but it's not people actually accumulating the supply and getting long with the bias of Pepe going higher. So that's why those short squeezes, as soon as the shorts are squeezed, the momentum is gone. Whereas recoveries, like accumulations that I showed you, cause and effect, where price goes sideways, it's boring, retail are not interested because it's not moving enough for them, it's not exciting enough for them. That's when your whales can buy up the supply. So if this is going to be in a recovery period, it's actually good to see price pulling back here. You just want to see one of two things, or really both. So you want to see Pepe not retrace this 1, 2, 3, 4 day rally in less than 4 days. And well, it hasn't done that. It's taken 1, 2, 3, and we're currently in the 4th day just to retrace that Sunday pump candle over here, which is good. So that means it's taking a lot more time to actually retrace the bullish momentum on Pepe, which is what you want to see, because last thing you want to see is 4 days of up retraced in 3 days. That's, of course, a very bearish sign. So that's one good thing to know on Pepe. And the second thing that you want to know is that we don't want to see price come back to the beginning of this rally. Ideally, in the strongest recoveries at least, you'll have price consolidate, bounce, can go lower, but eventually it sets that macro higher low. And then you start to generate these macro high highs and higher lows, which every uptrend needs in order to be an uptrend. So that will be a subtle sign, not retracing this entire rally in the coming weeks ahead, to tell you that Pepe's potentially finding some demand here and some smart money are accumulating it. Whereas, as I said, if you do the opposite and at some point you retrace the entire rally and make a new low, then that is actually more bearish, because it means the demand, the accumulating, the recovery is unable to keep price higher than the current low. And that, of course, is the most simple signal that price action is bearish if it's making new lows. It's as simple as that. It means price is literally having to find a new price, a new low to find a buyer. And that's why higher lows are so important, because it means price is actually finding a higher price where it is finding a new buyer. And that can be indicative of accumulation. So this is what you'd want to see on Pepe. Yes, it is retracing its rally now and it couldn't stay above this value area high. Now, if it does get back above the value area high immediately, then that short squeeze scenario is actually back on the table, which again, it's not the path you want to see for long-term bullishness, but we don't always get what we want in crypto. So reclaiming that value area high, which is at 0.65, that's going to be your key trigger to look for short squeeze longs for short-term continuation, potentially to fill in some of these gaps over here, which can then potentially stall out at. But if we do continue retracing, which is going to be heavily reliant on Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin comes to its 2026 open, whether it loses it or not, then you just want to see Pepe slowly retrace some of this rally, yeah, sure, and eventually build that macro high low and high high structure. So that's going to take time. That's going to take patience, but that's why so much money can be made on high time frame trading, swing trading, because patience is actually your edge. The retail trader who's bored gets long here, then sells it all here, and then starts getting long here because they see a few green candles, and they get liquidated, and then they completely check out right before it's about to go into its momentum move. And what is all of that? It's just longs getting liquidated, generating sell liquidity, which allows smart money to get those easy buy orders filled during this period. So that's what you want to watch for on Pepe. Mark out this volume profile now to the same nature. Value area low over here. Of course, you've got the POC where the most volume is traded. You don't want to see this lost. So much in confluence with that green zone. If we start trading below the value area low, then it's actually suggesting that all the accumulation here is wrong. The buying here is wrong. And if that buying is wrong, then they're then going to be in a loss, and that can catalyze selling as they essentially get rid of their bad positions. That's why you get the markdowns. So every consolidation is always a battle of accumulation and distribution. Question is who wins, but you can see those subtle price action signs that I mentioned to determine who's more likely to win. So they're the scenarios on Pepe for a short squeeze short term or a high time frame recovery, and what to look for to see if there is actually strong demand. And if there's not, as I said, we've got this lower blue box to fill in some of those weekly gaps from that initial breakout, which Pepe will likely come to if we do break down further. So overall, to keep it simple, you've got this weekly candle now on Pepe. You don't want to see it get retraced. You want to see price recover within this weekly impulse candle. Otherwise, it's likely to go to new lows. Simple as that. And we do rinse and repeat. We'll look at the exact same recovery setup from a new price if it needs to go lower. So that's Pepe. Game of patience unless we see the short squeeze scenario. XRP. So using the same technical analysis concepts, looking at the monthly imbalance over here, unable to close any monthly candles in this general zone above $3. We know that's where sellers on the high time frame have showed up. And then we have this monthly imbalance candle here, really between 1.7 and $2. That's where buyers have been showing up since this markup. Of course, you had this multi-year accumulation on XRP again, cause and effect, boring price action, smart money accumulate during this period when retail get bored, 914 days. You know, if you bought XRP in this period, you deserve the gains. It's as simple as that. Because the opportunity cost when Bitcoin was ripping, loads of other coins were ripping, and this was going sideways is massive. So that's what smart money do. They accumulate during the boring periods in that sideways price action, and then it leads to the markup. And now we just need to see where does the next recovery / accumulation occur from. So we'll zoom into the weekly here, get a better view. We've also been able to close any weekly candles below this monthly imbalance, so that's also interesting. And now we just need to see price hold above this monthly imbalance. So any closes below there for the first time on the weekly likely signals this chart is going to actually continue bleeding lower. So that's not what you want to see if you are a bull. Now, that 2021 all-time high has been a level I've talked about on XRP for so long now. It's been literally the bounce pad for XRP. For every single time you want to get long, you just be patient and wait for that level. Even now, it's leading to shorter bounces, but that is what's happening. The bounces are getting shorter. They're not leading to these moves to new highs. Bounces into this level are leading to one green week and then straight back down. So signs of weakness are there on XRP. Definitely not as strong as Pepe has been. But above that 2021 all-time high, price is okay. That's kind of your interim support level. So lose the 2021 all-time high again, then that's an early sign that we could be breaking the monthly imbalance. But overall, losing the monthly imbalance is your strong signal that price is actually likely to continue bleeding lower and filling in more of this October 10th wick. So zooming in to the daily, if this is going to be a recovery, let's take a look at it. So let's grab a volume profile. Everything after that liquidation data now. Where's the buying and selling been? So actually the buying and selling has been quite high up, which is not a good sign. So I'd be less bullish on XRP than I would be on Pepe for the probabilities of a solid high time frame recovery, because you can see the value area low and value area high is between $2 and $2.5. And we're almost at $2 already now. So that means most of the buying and selling has been done in that range. So if we start falling below that range, then that's 70% of buying and selling. So the buyers in particular, they're going to be underwater. If they're underwater, that's added pressure, that's added sell pressure, which then comes on and can lead to something like the red path. So I'll be watching the value area low at $2, just above $2, and value area high at $2.55. Get below that value area low in 2021 all-time high, then this likely sets up price to go to new lows and continue grinding lower. If we can hold that value area low and consolidate above that 2021 all-time high, that's going to be the most promising scenario for XRP, because that's going to show that all of the buying and selling between these levels are actually being respected by price. Price is holding up, not putting them underwater, which shows demand, right? It shows demand is outweighing supply if the buyers are not underwater, and then you're actually putting the shorts underwater. It's simple. Price moves through supply and demand. So on the high time frame, if you're seeing price hold above that value area low, where most of the buying and selling has been, then what you're looking at is low set there, high set there, and this to be a higher time frame, higher low, where we then go into that uptrend structure that I've been talking about. Very simple. That's what you want to see to begin any uptrend, and that's what you'd want to see in the recovery period preceding that. So we just need price to consolidate above the value area low, which if I had to guess, it doesn't look likely. I think XRP can pretty easily retrace that, given that Bitcoin's looking like it wants to head towards that 2026 open. If XRP is already at the value area low and Bitcoin heads down, then it's probably going to lose that value area low, lose that 2021 all-time high, and set up this kind of bleed lower, where we then have to look at where can price recover from if it's not from here. But bullish scenario, which to be clear, I think is less likely, would be this green path holding above the value area low and consolidating at that new higher low. So that's what I'll be looking for. The biggest signal for momentum kicking in would be getting above the value area high at 2.55. That's where you can then trade PEPE XRP on the short-term side, looking at those momentum rallies, scalping it. And that's probably what I'll do. I won't be guessing and buying any XRP during this period, because it's not something I'm really bullish on high time frame. But if we do see these signs, and anything can happen, everything has a probability in trading. So if we get above that value area high, that'll be the signal to me to look for longs towards that monthly imbalance above at $3. So that's how I would trade it personally. Just patience, wait for the market to tell me this is strong and this is likely to have a momentum rally, because until then, probabilities show that we could also get this scenario where I do not want to be long or buying any XRP. And so that's what I'm looking at in terms of XRP. That is the full market update. So guys, if you enjoyed this update, let me know. Help support the channel, drop a subscribe, turn that bell on, and let me know in the comments and likes. That helps me know that you guys value this content. It's a bit of a different one today, analyzing some altcoins, but I want to give you guys that full crypto market analysis so that you're best prepared, not just looking at Bitcoin and macro markets, but giving you guys that broader view. So that is the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. GM.